The Victorian Vampire Massacre. London, 1888. Fog lay thick upon the cobbled streets like a living thing, coiling through iron railings and clinging to brickwork blackened by coal smoke. Gas lamps burned with a weak, jaundiced glow, their light swallowed almost as soon as it was cast. It was the kind of night when footsteps echoed too loudly, and every shadow seemed to lean closer than it should. Gerard walked slowly, savoring the rare quiet, his gloved hand entwined with Sonia's. The chill in the air did nothing to dampen their spirits. They had spent the evening wandering the city, admiring the towering facades and Gothic spires that rose like ancient sentinels over the Thames. London was a city of contrasts, grandeur and rot, splendor and squalor. And on nights like this, it felt as though the past itself breathed through the stones. Sonia smiled faintly, her dark hair pinned beneath a modest bonnet. "You forget," she said softly, "how beautiful it can be, even at night." Gerard nodded. "And how cruel." They turned into a narrower street, one less traveled, its buildings leaning inward as though conspiring to trap anything foolish enough to pass through. Somewhere nearby, a clock chimed the late hour. The sound had barely faded when a scream tore through the silence. It was high and ragged, the sound of raw terror stripped bare. Sonia stopped dead. "Did you hear?" Another scream followed, closer now, ending abruptly in a wet, choking gurgle. Without thinking, Gerard tightened his grip and ran towards the sound, pulling Sonia with him. They reached a narrow alley slick with rain and filth, where the stench of iron and decay hung heavy in the air. A woman lay slumped against the wall, her dress soaked crimson. Her hands clawed weakly at her throat, where 2 puncture wounds oozed dark blood. "Oh, God!" Sonia dropped to her knees beside her. The woman's eyes fluttered open. Her lips moved, though no sound came out at first. When she finally spoke, it was little more than a whisper. Inside, all dead. Gerard looked past her. The doors of the nearby inn stood open, hanging crookedly on shattered hinges. Inside, illuminated by the flicker of dying candles, was a vision of slaughter. Bodies lay strewn across the floor, limbs torn free, faces frozen in expressions of horror too intense to have been faked. Blood coated the walls in great sweeping arcs, as though something had reveled in the violence. Sonia recoiled, covering her mouth to stifle a scream. Gerard turned and spotted a young boy, frozen at the far end of the alley, staring in silent shock. "You!" Gerard shouted. "Run! Fetch help! Police! Doctors! Anyone!" The boy hesitated only a moment, before bolting into the fog. Sonia pressed her shawl against the woman's neck, trying to stem the bleeding. "Stay with us," she pleaded. "Please." The woman's breathing grew shallow. He came, like smoke. Her fingers tightened painfully around Sonia's wrist. Eyes red. A low hiss echoed from somewhere behind them. Gerard felt the hairs on his neck rise. The shadows at the mouth of the alley seemed to deepen, folding inward upon themselves. A shape moved within them, tall and impossibly thin. There was the sound of claws scraping stone, followed by a low animal growl that vibrated through the air. Then it stepped forward. He was pale, deathly so, his features sharp and elegant in a way that felt wrong, like a statue carved, too precisely. His eyes burned crimson red, glowing faintly in the darkness. When he smiled, long fangs gleamed, still wet with blood dripping from his lips. The woman let out a final broken cry before her body went slack. Sonia screamed. "Run!" Gerard shouted. They fled, boots slipping on wet stone, the vampire's laughter following them, soft, delighted, hungry. He moved impossibly fast, his form blurring as he pursued them through twisting streets. They burst through the doors of a nearby church, slamming them shut just as something heavy struck the wood with bone-shattering force. The doors rattled violently. Inside, the church was cold and cavernous, its pews empty, its altar cloaked in shadow. Sonia collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. "He's not human," she whispered. "No," Gerard said grimly. "He's something else." The pounding continued, each blow threatening to tear the doors from their hinges. Stained glass windows shattered one by one, showering the floor with colored shards as a pale figure squeezed through the broken frames. The vampire landed lightly, eyes gleaming. "My name," he said calmly, "is Alistair." They backed away, clutching a crucifix from a nearby pew and a vial of holy water kept by the altar. When Gerard flung the water, it hissed upon Alistair's skin, raising smoke and the scent of burning flesh. He snarled, recoiling only slightly. "You think faith alone can save you?" he asked. "I have walked this city since before your great-grandfathers were born." He advanced. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm them, a sharp trumpet blast rang through the church, clear and commanding. The vampire froze. A man strode through the shattered doors, tall and broad-shouldered, his coat lined with weapons and charms. His eyes were hard, his expression resolute. "Step away from them, Alistair," he said. The vampire hissed. "Alexander." Steel met claw in a violent clash that sent both men crashing through pews. The fight was brutal, ancient, and relentless. Stone cracked, wood splintered, and blood, human and otherwise, spattered the walls. Gerard and Sonia watched in horror as the hunter was thrown aside, slamming into a pillar. Alistair turned back to them, fury burning in his eyes. "Enough," he snarled. In a moment of desperate courage, Gerard thrust the crucifix forward. Alistair screamed as smoke poured from his flesh, his movement slowing, just long enough for Alexander to rise and drive a wooden stake into his heart. The vampire shrieked, a sound of rage and agony, and hurled himself backwards through the shattered window. His body disintegrated in the air, collapsing into ash that scattered across the churchyard like blackened snow. Silence fell. Alexander nodded once. "It's over." As dawn crept over London, the fog began to lift. Gerard and Sonia stepped back into the streets, changed forever. The city looked the same, yet felt utterly different. They knew now what lurked beneath its surface, and London, for the moment, was safe once more. In the weeks that followed, London returned to its restless rhythm, though Gerard could never quite look upon its streets the same way again. The fog still rolled in from the river, the gas lamps still flickered, and laughter still spilled from taverns late into the night. But beneath it all, he sensed something watchful, something ancient, forever lurking just beyond the veil of the ordinary. One evening, while taking refuge from the rain in a modest public house near the Strand, Gerard found himself seated beside a young Irishman with sharp eyes and an inquisitive manner. The man introduced himself as Bram Stoker, a clerk by trade and an aspiring writer by passion. Conversation drifted easily as ale loosened tongues, and before Gerard quite realized it, he was recounting the events of that terrible night. The screams, the slaughtered inn, the creature with crimson eyes, and the hunter who had ended the curse. Stoker listened in rapt silence, scarcely blinking, his fingers tightening around his glass, as Gerard spoke of Alistair, of immortality twisted into damnation, of blood as both sustenance and curse. When Gerard finished the young writer exhaled slowly, his face pale but alight with something close to reverence. "Such a creature," Stoker murmured, "bound by darkness, yet walking amongst us. A noble monster, damned by his own hunger." Gerard felt a chill run through him. "If you write of it," he said quietly, "do not soften the truth. Evil like that wears many faces." Stoker nodded, his gaze distant now, as though already shaping shadows into words. "Some stories," he replied, "must be told, if only to remind mankind what waits in the dark." They parted soon after, Gerard thinking little more of the meeting. Yet years later, when a novel titled Dracula appeared in print, its pages heavy with blood, curses, and ancient terror, Gerard recognized more than fiction within its lines. He saw the fog-drenched streets of London, the echo of a scream in a narrow alley, and the red eyes of a monster long reduced to ash. And he knew, with a certainty that never left him, that some horrors are not born of imagination, but of memory. The end.